There's absolutely nothing wrong with any of those words in and of themselves. They're only words. It's the context that counts. It's the user. It's the intention behind the words that makes them good or bad. The words are completely neutral. The words are innocent. I get tired of people talking about bad words and bad language. Bullshit. It's the context that makes them good or bad.
proceeds to be punished for this, even if that punishment is little more than a slap on the wrist. Aguilar lies about who punished him and the reason for punishing him, and then posts sensitive information about a different person online. Aguilar is punished for this again, and then lies about said punishment again. Aguilar makes another video where he throws a histrionic tantrum where he tries very hard to pretend he's above it all, and the cycle begins all over again. All of this started because I referred to Aguilar as a nobody, while he's accused me of sending fans to attack him, accused me of worshipping people he's arbitrarily decided are bad, accused my relationship of not being real, and repeatedly trash-talked my wife in the process, and has had multiple meltdowns on Twitter where he proceeds to reveal just how much of a red pill swallowing nutcase he is. By ridiculing those he perceives as mentally ill or otherwise horrible, Aguilar feels functional and successful by comparison. By putting these people up on his series, he rejects the notion that he himself might share anything in common with his targets, and that works so long as he pretends not to care too much. This is why the extremely loose comparison to Anonymous or 4chan bothered him so much that he had a 45-minute meltdown about it. Aguilar desperately needs to believe that there are people out there worse than him, so much so that whoever edits the MLP Analysis TV Tropes page felt the need to make this known to people before it was cut for being clearly bullshit.
Hole just got a little deeper, because not only is Aguilar a lying, cloying, insecure bully, he's also a sexual predator as well. Because of fucking course he is. This is the story of Buttons Pastel, a very vulnerable person who Aguilar preyed on in a time where they were experiencing very little support from the people around them. Aguilar and Buttons started dating in April of 2017, and Aguilar almost immediately began manipulating them into a lot of very twisted sexual situations, including, but not limited to, daddy kinks, role-playing as underage characters, and treating them like a friend with benefits who you don't really see as a friend. Aguilar's abuse of Buttons was guised under a deluge of gaslighting from the rest of the Secret Rift. They, like every other simpering lazy fuckhead in the community, conditioned Buttons to believe that they were triggered too easily, and that their very real post-traumatic stress disorder and previous abuse trauma was too much of a burden to bear. You remember how I talked about Zach's circle of friends being all too eager to ignore the gaslighting and abuse he was pulling? Well, it seems the Secret Rift and Limbo were all too eager to participate in the gaslighting and abuse that Aguilar was pulling. In fact, this very video was meant to come out a while ago and focus on the Secret Rift, but upon hearing that there was the possibility of this going public, Aguilar got very scared very quickly and desperately started screaming at Buttons with his usual "But Lily" deflections that all of these fuckheads engage in whenever their behavior is criticized. He was so desperate to keep this under wraps that his usual facade of being aloof and above it all completely dropped, and he showed his hand by behaving like the screaming little bitch that he is. Oh, and by the way, Aguilar's almost 40 and Buttons is 20, and they started dating when they were 19. Now, under normal circumstances, that's just a questionable footnote, but when you combine this with the insistent daddy kink and the role-playing as underage characters without even the pretense of aging them up, I'm not saying Aguilar's an active pedophile, but I am saying that if the age of consent were to be lowered, he'd be throwing a wild party about it. Actually, I guess I am saying he's a pedophile. Just one who knows how to follow the letter of the law, if not the spirit. None of this should be particularly surprising, not only because these corners of the brony community have demonstrated time and time and time again how fucking gross and disgusting they are, and Aguilar's been the poster child for disgusting, perverted, angrily deflecting bronies for years now. It's not surprising, it's not news, it's practically banal. And that's a terrible situation to be in, because the moment something gross becomes banal, we stop caring about it, the silence creeps in, and these shytalks continue pumping out horseshit until it's basically acceptable. This is why I want to see this kind of shit as headlines, as breaking news, treated like a big deal. I'm convinced that the only reason that Zach's friends cut him out at all was for the sake of their own reputations. They directly admitted this in the call with Zach, and their actions since then have only reinforced it.
This is interesting to note. Multiple times throughout his series, Aguilar derides someone for their appearance, be it acne, their clothing, or just the general look of their face, that I have a beard shadow due to my hair being darker than my skin, and showing through regardless of how close my shave is, because Aguilar doesn't understand the difference between shaving and electrolysis. Demonstrated by the fact that Aguilar can't go 5 seconds without having new fights with his so-called friends and colleagues, because none of them actually like each other. They just like hating people more popular than them. And the moment the conversation switches to anything else, they start squabbling and trying to tear each other's throats out. More than half of How Not to Brony's content is him passive-aggressively sniping at other people in the Rift and whining about the latest minor argument that he wants to call a war, because Aguilar is a fucking drama queen, and this is how a drama queen behaves. And that's ultimately what we're dealing with. These are people who spent a long time in the analysis community and have received very little attention. Aguilar once tried to petition Equestria Daily that small-time analysts should be put up on the site to get them more attention.
This genuinely goes to show how troublesome these fucking fake law enforcement people are, because they're not. They have their own personal agendas and biases. You putting up complete and utter bullshit saying I made up the entire Melody situation is genuinely interfering with a court of law. Stop supporting these fake law enforcement. They're not doing anything and they're not helping. Even if they are, it's so minuscule that law enforcement just hasn't caught the people that they're catching.
Grow some bollocks. All this cancel culture rubbish is the result of overly sensitive twits being outraged by the smallest, stupidest things imaginable and unimaginable. Social justice warriors, more like stunted juvenile whingers. It's not anyone's place to tell others how to feel. You do that, all you'll get is resentment and resistance.
They took our job!
Fame is a vapor. The only earthly certainty is living.